Hello dear all, welcome to English ESL Way with Mithika, and today we are going to study the chapter Truly Beautiful Mind. Okay, what word first comes to your brain when I say a genius? Okay, a genius scientist who talked about light, electrodynamics of moving body, energy, who had changed our understanding about the space-time and the entire cosmos. Okay, I'm talking about Albert Einstein, whose name has become a synonym for genius. Now, this title, A Truly Beautiful Mind, make you wonder how can a scientist's mind be a beautiful mind? Because he was a great humanitarian who advocated world's peace and non-violence and set as an example before us that a beautiful mind not only possesses the ideas but also makes sincere efforts to work for the well-being of humankind. He was of view that the science should be devoted for the promotion of world's peace and prosperity. Now it's time to read the story. Let's get started. Follow me. Albert Einstein was born on 14th March 1879 in the German city of Ulm without any indication that he was destined for greatness. So, Albert Einstein was born on 14th March 1879. Where was he born? He was born in the city of Ulm, which was in Germany. And when he was born, nobody had an idea or had an indication that he was destined for greatness. Destined means a predetermined set of events that has to happen in the future. Nobody had an idea about that he would become a great scientist of the world. On the contrary, his mother thought Albert was a freak. Freak means a person who is unusual and doesn't behave, look or think like others. So her mother was of different view. She used to think of him as a freak because he didn't behave normally like other children. And there was a reason behind calling him as a freak. To her, his head seemed much too large. So Albert's mother thought that the little boy's head was too big in comparison to other children's heads. And at the age of 2.5, Einstein still wasn't talking. So she used to think of freak for another reason also, because normally the children who are around 6 to 7 months old only, they start babbling, but he did not do that thing. He started talking when he was 2.5, which was very late for a parent to absorb this thing. When he finally did learn to speak, he uttered everything twice. So when he finally learned how to speak, he used to repeat words. Einstein did not know what to do with other children, and his playmates called him Brother Boring, so the youngster played by himself. So Einstein did not seem to enjoy anybody's company. He used to remain to himself all the time. He used to play with himself only, and his playmates used to call him Brother Boring. So this all suggests that his mother thinking him as a freak was the right thing, because his head seemed to her much large. He started speaking very late. He did not seem to enjoy others' company. So it was quite right to say that he was a freak child. He especially loved mechanical toys. Do you know what are mechanical toys? These are the toys which have some kind of machinery inside. So he used to love to play with automated cars, automated planes since his childhood. Looking at his newborn sister, Maja, he said to have said, "Fine, but where are her wheels?" So when his sister was born and when he looked at her, he could not see her feet because she was wrapped in a cloth, and he was wondering where the baby's wheels were. That means that feet of the baby. And as Albert Einstein used to play with the toys and all the toys had a set of wheels, to him Maja also seemed to be a toy too, and so he might have thought that where were her wheels. A headmaster once told his father that what Einstein chose as a profession would not matter, because he will never make a success at anything. So the headmaster of Einstein's school told Einstein's father once that he would never be successful in whatever profession he chose. Einstein began learning to play the violin at the age of 6 because his mother wanted him to. He later became a gifted amateur violinist, maintaining the skill throughout his life. So Einstein was a very good violinist and he learned playing the violin at the age of 6. So why did he learn? Because his mother wanted him to play this thing. And all his life he was an amateur violinist. Amateur means as a person who does something for personal enjoyment rather than as a profession. So he used to play the violin as a hobby, not as a profession. Now let's make this word amateur as the part of your dictionary also. So if I say I'm an amateur chef and a baker, that means I do cooking and baking for my personal enjoyment rather than I'm picking it as a profession, because as a professional I'm a teacher. I'm not an amateur teacher. So you need to mention in which thing you are an amateur. Mention in the comment box down below. Now moving on, but Albert Einstein was not a bad pupil. He went to high school in Munich, where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old, and scored good marks in almost every subject. So Albert Einstein was a very good student. Opposite to that remark which his headmaster made once, that he could not be successful in any profession, he went to a school in Munich because his family had moved from Ulm to Munich when he was only 15 months old, and there he scored good marks in almost every subject. Einstein hated the school's regimentation and often clashed with his teachers. So regimentation means an order or discipline taken to an extreme. So the school where Einstein went had a very strict discipline which he disliked, and he could not stand the school rules and all that thing. Due to that, he often had clashed with his teachers' opinion and opposed them. He used to have a different opinion as of his teachers. So at the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled that he left the school for good. So stifled means unable to breathe and suffocated. He could not stand all this regimentation, the rules which were extreme level. So he left the school for good. He left all those things. He felt suffocated in the school. He could not follow the strict discipline, and therefore he left the school forever. The previous year, Albert's parents had moved to Milan and left their son with relatives. So when Albert Einstein left the school 1 year before that, his parents had moved to another city, Milan, which is in Italy. Albert was left behind in Munich with his relatives only. I don't know how did the parents leave their son all alone. I can't do that thing with my children ever. So after prolonged discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his education in German-speaking Switzerland, in a city which was more liberal than Munich. So liberal means willing to understand and respect others' opinion. So before, where he was going, there was a regimentation type things, and here the city where he was going now, it is quite liberal. So the school in Munich was very strict. Albert could not follow the discipline over there, so he had a long discussion with his family, relatives, and finally he made up his mind and he agreed to put him in a school in Switzerland, and the language used there for communication was German. Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics and interested in physics. And after finishing school, he decided to study at a university in Zurich. So Einstein was very good at studies, and exceptionally he was good at mathematics and physics. So he was exceptionally good in mathematics, and he also had interest in physics. And once he finished school, he joined the university in Zurich. But science wasn't the only thing that appealed to dashing young man with the walrus mustache. So science was not only the thing that appealed to Einstein, who was a very handsome young man. Other than science, he had interest in something else also. The question arises, what could be that something else? Let's find out. He also felt a special interest in a fellow student, Mileva Marek, whom he found to be a clever creature. So, other than maths and physics, Albert Einstein liked one of his fellow students, and her name was Mileva Maric. And what did he think about him? He thought that she was very clever, sharp, and intelligent girl. This young Serb had come to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few in Europe where women could get degrees. So they met at the University of Zurich. Mileva Maric belonged to Serbia, that is why she is called a Serb. She came from Serbia to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few of the university in Europe at that time which gave degrees to females too. Einstein saw in her an ally against the Philistines. So ally means a friend and an associate. And Philistine is a word used for disapprovingly to talk about people who do not like art and literature or music. So he found Mileva was a friend because she also liked art, literature, or music. Those people in his family and at the university with whom he was constantly at odds. At odds means to be in the opposition of someone or to be against someone. And they both shared this common interest. In those days, having interest in art or literature or music was not considered to be the good thing. So those people who were interested in art, literature or music used to call their opponents Philistines. So Albert Einstein's family and many people in the university were not in favor of this. So against such people, Albert Einstein's and Mileva Maric's unity helped them face the situation. The couple fell in love. Letters survive in which they put their affection into words, mixing science with tenderness. Wrote Einstein's, "How happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a victorious conclusion." So Albert Einstein and Mileva Maric fell in love and they exchanged love letters to express their feelings. At that time, that was the only mode to express their love. And they used to write such kind of letters where they used to mix science with their feelings. And at one instance, Einstein talked about his scientific invention and said that he would be very proud on that day when he would finally conclude the paper on the theory of relativity. In 1900, at the age of 21, Albert Einstein was a university graduate and unemployed. He worked as a teaching assistant, gave private lessons, and finally secured a job in 1902 as a technical expert in the patent office in Bern. So in the year 1900, Albert Einstein, when he was only 21 years of age, and he completed his graduation from the university. But one thing which was missing in his life, that was employment. He was unemployed. So he worked as a teaching assistant from 1900 to 1902 and gave a private lessons also. Finally in 1902 he got a job in Bern, which is after 2 years working as a private teacher and a teaching assistant. So Bern is a city in Germany. He got the job of technical officer in patents office in Bern. Patent means a document which gives the right of an invention to an inventor. While he was supposed to be assessing other people's invention, Einstein was actually developing his own ideas in secret. So Einstein was supposed to check the inventions done by other people and gave them a patent. On the other hand, secretly he was making his own inventions too. He is said to have jokingly called his drawer at work the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. Einstein later said that the desk on which he worked was the Office of Theoretical Physics because there only he started working on his inventions. One of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. Absolute means measured in itself, not in relation to anything else. So in the year 1905, Einstein published his first paper. It was about the special theory of relativity. In this publication, it was written that The measurement of time and distance is not absolute. It depended on something else. Indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey, if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. So, according to the theory, if there are two clocks and both are moving and they will not show the same time, one clock will move faster than the other. From this followed the world's most famous formula which describes the relationship between mass and energy. E is equal to mc square. In this mathematical equation, E stands for energy, M stands for mass, and C stands for the speed of the light in a vacuum, about 3 lakh kilometers per second. This theory of relativity gave us the basic formula of physics, E is equal to mc square. Einstein explained his theory of relativity in a rather funny way, and he said if you are with a nice girl for 2 hours, it seems like 2 minutes, and on the other hand, when you sit on a hot stove for 2 minutes, it seemed like 2 hours. That's the relativity. So a person would feel the timing differently. Now let's understand the Einstein theory of relativity. Time, you can't see it, you can't hear it, you can't wait, but you experience it. Every moment, the whole piece of time is a landscape, and we moved forward slice by slice. But do we really understand time? Is time same for everyone? To understand time, let's go back in time and make a small journey with a certain young patent clerk, Albert Einstein. Imagine you are traveling with Einstein in a train moving at a certain uniform speed. The train, relative to its outside environment, is in motion. The two of you sitting inside, on the other hand, observe each other as stationary objects. As for you and train are moving at the same speed. Hence, relative to train, you are stationary and laws of physics stay inside the train as they would on the ground when you are standing still. Now, let's consider you get off the train and observe moving across in front of you. Are stationary relative to you. Einstein is moving with same speed as the train. This is the phenomenon of relative motion, and we observe it every day. Now, does everything in the universe observe this relative motion the same way? Yes, everything except the light, and the light behave in a different way. So this is your theory of relativity. To understand more about it, explore more YouTube videos on that, because I'm not a science teacher. I couldn't understand more on this. I would suggest go back to your books and read more about this relativity theory of Einstein. So let's move on to the chapter. While Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. Unraveling means starting to fail. Though he was solving the complicated problems in physics for the world, but his personal life started becoming problematic. He started to fail in his personal life. Albert had wanted to marry Mileva right after finishing his studies, but his mother was against it. Albert Einstein wanted to marry Mileva Marek soon after he had finished his study, but his mother was kind of against that proposal. So she thought Mileva, who was 3 years older than her son, was too old for him. So first reason she was against this proposal, because she was of view that the Mileva Marek was 3 years elder to Albert Einstein, was very old for him. And she was also bothered by Mileva's intelligence. She is a book like you, his mother said. Einstein put the wedding off. So Pauline, mother of Albert Einstein, thought that Mileva was very intelligent to be a wife, and she told Einstein that Mileva was also like a book and was similar to him. As his mother was against the marriage, he cancelled his wedding with Mileva. The pair finally married in January 1903 and had two sons. So finally, the Albert Einstein and Mileva Mary got married in January 1903 and they had two sons. But a few years later, the marriage faltered. Faltered means becoming weak. The marriage failed. So Mileva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming an unhappy housewife. As Mileva was a very intellectual and intelligent person, being a housewife, she could not cope up with her ambitions. She could not stand all these household chores and all that. She could not fulfill her ambition, and so she started becoming unhappy of this marriage relation. After years of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced in 1990. So Mileva was unhappy from her marriage. She could not fulfill her career dreams. So finally in the year 1919, after prolonged fighting, both of them separated. Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. So Albert Einstein married the second time. He married his cousin Elsa, and he married the same year he got divorced from Mileva Mary. Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise to world fame. So, which new chapter here? It's his marriage with Elsa. And it coincided means it happens at the same time. So what happened at the same time when he married to Elsa? He became the world famous. Everybody acknowledged him as the world's greatest scientist. In 1915, he had published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. So in the year 1915, he gave a general theory of relativity which was providing a new information or giving a new interpretation of gravity. And in the year 1919, there was a solar eclipse which provided that Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity was correct. Actually, he had calculated in the year 1915 that in the year 1919 there would be a solar eclipse, and due to it the apparent position of the stars would change to some extent, and his calculation was accurate. So it was announced that Albert Einstein's work was a scientific revelation. So do you feel like watching what was that general theory of relativity now? Okay, let me provide you with that. Wait and watch. Einstein released that special theory of relativity which he explained previously only worked for circumstances when things are at constant speed through the universe. What about when objects sped up? What about the effect of gravity? And come to think of, what is gravitational pull after all? Einstein theorized that objects warped space-time around it, causing it become curved. As a result, objects experience gravitational attraction to each other. This warping in space-time explains how objects behave as they move through space. This is general theory of relativity. Well, how do we know that theory of relativity is true? Well, countless experiments have been carried out and Einstein's equations hold true. Modern GPS uses Einstein's theory to pinpoint our location with impressive accuracy. In 1971, an experiment was conducted with 4 super accurate atomic clocks, which were set to the exact time as the reference clocks. And the clocks were placed aboard commercial flights, and planes flew twice around the world, first eastward and then westward. When the clocks returned and were compared to the reference clock, they were no longer all synchronized. Differences were consistent with the prediction of special and general theory of relativity. Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. He was showered with honors and invitations from all over the world and lauded by the press. So obviously, after doing such a great work, one deserves honors, and therefore he received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. He was invited all over the world and he was lauded by the press. So when the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein emigrated to United States. So when the Germany came under the power of Nazis in 1933, And the famous Nazi ruler was Adolf Hitler. At that time, Einstein left Germany and shifted to United States of America forever. Emigrated means shifting to a place. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. Uproar means very upset, and who were upset? The American physicists. And why were they upset? Because Berlin had discovered the nuclear fission, and they were afraid that what if the Berlin misuse this technology? Many of them had fled from fascism, just as Einstein had. And now they were afraid the Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. So there were many scientists like Einstein who escaped to America because of fascism. Do you know what is fascism? Fascism was a dictatorial concept which was started in Europe from Italy by the rule of Benito Mussolini. All the scientists were afraid that Nazis could misuse the atomic bomb. At the urging of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to American President Franklin D. Roosevelt on 2nd August 1939, in which he warned a single bomb of this type exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territory. So Albert Einstein was requested by the colleague, and so he wrote a letter to the President of America, Franklin D. Roosevelt, at that time on 2nd August 1939, wherein he warned him that the atomic bomb which was developed by Germany was very powerful. If one of those bombs exploded at any port, it would not only destroy the area, but also it would destroy the surrounding territory. This shows that Einstein's humanitarian quality. He wanted good for the people. He wanted peace in the world. That is why he wrote his concern to the President of America and warned him. His words did not fail to have an effect. Albert Einstein's letter had an impact on Franklin D. Roosevelt. The Americans developed an atomic bomb in a secret project of their own and dropped it on Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. So the Americans developed the atomic bomb secretly and dropped it on two cities of Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The Germans had just developed the atomic bomb. They did not use it on any country, but America did. Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction. So a lot of destruction took place, and Einstein was shaken with this kind of act of America. This time he wrote a public missive to United Nations. Missive is a letter which is exceptionally long and official. So he wrote an official letter to United Nations organization. In it, he proposed the formation of world government. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. So when he wrote a letter to Roosevelt, it had an impact, and American built an atomic bomb. But when he wrote a proposal to form a world government to United Nations, that letter did not bear any fruit. But over the next decade, Einstein got ever more involved in politics, agitating for an end to this arms buildup and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. For another 10 years, Albert Einstein was involved in world peace. He was involved in politics, and his agenda was to stop the countries involved in collecting arms and developing weapons. So he campaigned for world peace and democracy. His main agenda was world peace and freedom of people. When Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76, he was celebrated as visionary and world citizen as much as a scientific genius. So visionary is a person who can think of the future in an original and intelligent way. I know one more visionary from India, and he was APJ Abdul Kalam. So Einstein could foresee the future. When he died in 1955 at the age of 76, the world celebrated him as a visionary. He was a world citizen and a scientific genius too. Enjoyed reading with me? Now there is a vocabulary quiz link in the description box below. Do it. And that's all for now. Happy studies.